Guys, Curve CRV may have a big problem. Over $100 million is under threat because the programming language behind Curve, Viper, has a re-entry bug. And of course, that affects Curve because Curve, the smart contract language, is actually built on Viper. Now, Curve may not be the only one that's affected because Viper is made to be a simpler smart contract programming language for Ethereum blockchain network and EVMs. So if your EVM uses Viper, you might be vulnerable to this contract exploit, and you probably want to lock away your money or take it out of a liquidity pool for the time being if your chain is actually affected. So the language again is Viper. Now, $100 million is at risk on Curve because that's how much people have locked in. So basically, more than $100 million worth of cryptocurrency could be at risk due to a bug impacting Curve, and that is a stablecoin exchange at the center of Ethereum's DeFi ecosystem. So basically, what they tweeted out is Curve Finance, a number of stable pools, AI Ethereum, MS Ethereum, P Ethereum using Viper 0.2.15 have been exploited as a result of a malfunctioning re-entry lock. We are assessing the situation and will update the community as things develop. So basically, if you're in a pool with AI Ethereum, MS Ethereum, P Ethereum using Viper 0.2.25, it has been exploited and it is vulnerable. They're saying Viper versions 0.2.15, 0.2.16, and 0.3.0 are vulnerable to malfunctioning re-entry locks. The investigation is ongoing, but any project relying on these versions should immediately reach out to us. And basically, that's Curve Finance right now. This could actually be worse than we think, because like I said, it doesn't have to be only Curve. Anyone using Viper on those versions, 0.2.15, 0.2.16, and 0.3.0 are really going to be affected. And of course, you need to keep a contract, keep a track of which version of Viper your contract is actually using. So the thing is, not very good right now for Curve. I don't know if I'd probably pull my money out of CRV right now if that's the case. I'm not really sure how long this is going to actually be exploited. I don't think they've yet fixed this. So this is a problem right now. If you're watching this anytime soon, I would actually take my money out of CRV right now because right now the smart contracts there are simply not really that secure until they upgrade the version of Curve. But really, it's only for the couple of wrapped ETH pairs I mentioned earlier. But still, not a good look for CRV if they lose $100 million in this exploit. Obviously, the price of CRV is going to be affected. The reputation is going to be affected, and things are going to kind of go down in terms of CRV. Maybe not the entire Ethereum blockchain, obviously, but the CRV protocol. So I probably wouldn't invest in CRV right now. And of course, we have the story that the SEC wanted Coinbase to delist every single coin out there. Yes, Brian Armstrong has come on strong here, and he has disclosed that the SEC actually met with Coinbase and warned them to delist every single coin besides Bitcoin because they all might be securities. That basically says that the SEC considers Bitcoin not a security and everything else a security. Obviously, the Ripple case kind of blew that logic apart, but they have signaled that they want to appeal. That should take another 2 years or something. And while that's appealing, that is the law of the land, that it is not a security. However, I don't think the SEC is going to go around suing more coins right now because I think they know they can't win. They're going to go after the ICOs. But that just shows you where the SEC's ambition is. They want crypto Armageddon. They wanted to sue the pants off of every single coin on Coinbase, and they wanted Coinbase to basically destroy the crypto market. Thankfully, I guess not thankfully, Coinbase did delist XRP, but they didn't delist anything else. Because if they had delisted everything else, that would have set a precedent for other exchanges to follow. And if Coinbase, the largest US exchange, actually did delist all the other tokens, it would be very difficult for Gemini, for Kraken, and other exchanges to say no to the SEC if to say no to the SEC, and we're going to keep our tokens listed. But since Coinbase refused, I think it made it easier for the other exchanges. So thank you, Coinbase. But one thing about that is when Coinbase was talking to the SEC, basically the SEC is like, you have to delist all these tokens because we deemed them to be securities. And Coinbase is like, well, that's not our interpretation of the law. Can you tell us how you deemed them to be securities? And the SEC is like, no, we're not going to tell you, but they are securities. Now, if that sounds like a BS logic to you, that is because it is BS logic. And the SEC is trying to pull a lot of this BS logic recently because they know that their logic doesn't really work. And now the courts and the judges are telling them their logic doesn't really work. So I'm glad that Coinbase actually did stand up to the SEC and has actually said that we won't actually delist all our coins. And I think right now the lawsuits are proving Coinbase right. And it is very nice that they and Gemini and Kraken and all those other exchanges did not delist all the coins. And of course, Coinbase is one of the few companies that can actually fight the SEC because they're well funded. Binance and Ripple can too. And I think like these three companies are actually footing the money for the rest of the industry. And hopefully we get a lot of clarity from all of this. So yeah, Coinbase did actually was actually told by the SEC to stop trading all cryptos except Bitcoin before being sued because the SEC wanted to make a statement. Coinbase basically gave the SEC the middle finger saying, no, we are not going to delist all these cryptos. Screw you guys. And the SEC then sued them. But now the SEC's put themselves in a very hard place because they lost the Ripple case. And it looks like they are going to lose the Coinbase case as well. So very, very good news for crypto for Coinbase versus the SEC. I think the SEC is basically up a creek without a paddle right now. And other thing I wanted to clear up, SBF's charges were not all dropped. He is still being charged by 7 accounts of fraud in the criminal case alone, which will probably result in like 10 years of jail. And he's going to have to pay a whole boatload of money to people in the civil case because there's more charges in the civil case. And I think they might have second thoughts about dropping the campaign finance thing. But that one, their hands are kind of tied because the Bahamas, as a condition of extraditing him to the United States, the Bahamas basically was like, you cannot charge him with that charge. And Bahamas is exercising that power because now they have, for any other charges other than the ones they have right now, they have to get the okay of the Bahamas. So it looks like the Bahamas government is somewhat protecting them. That's not really that surprising to me. He had a lot of money there. FTX's main central base was actually in the Bahamas. So he probably pulled some strings there, gave people like millions of dollars. And they are trying to stop certain investigations from around SBF, probably because it would implicate them as well. Yes, people, there's a lot of dirty money here, and there's a lot of like hand-wringing and stuff going on behind her back. And Sam Bankman-Fried is probably going to walk free from some of the allegations, but the 7 that he's being charged with accounts of fraud, he is not really going to walk away from. I expect him to get about 10 years in jail, which is exactly what Elizabeth Holmes got. Remember, they didn't get Al Capone on any of his like murders or drug dealing or extortion or anything. They got him on not paying taxes. So they can actually get Sam Bankman-Fried on any of these charges as well. And I do think they will get him on some of these charges. So if you heard that Sam Bankman-Fried is being completely bailed out and is going to walk completely free and all the charges against SBF are being dropped, that is not true. SBF is still definitely on the hook for a lot of charges that can amount to decades in prison. Obviously, I don't think he's going to get the max sentence for all of that. Like I said, about 10, 11 years, the same thing as Elizabeth Holmes. The reason that Bernie Madoff got so many years in prison is because he was a regulator himself, or a part of the regulators himself, and he abused that power. SBF is not a regulator. Although, you could make an argument that both him and Gary Gensler should be in jail because Gary Gensler did wine and dine him for for a night at least, before a couple of months before the collapse. So he should have known. Definitely dereliction of duty there for Gary Gensler. And I heard that Gensler was actually trying to help him get around certain regulations, which would be another strike on Gary Gensler's record. I think like we should all bring this up And this should all be brought up in certain lawsuits and certain legal proceedings, because that would make things very, very uncomfortable for Gensler. Well, that's the main news. Curve Finance almost destroyed. The SEC actually did want Coinbase to basically delist every single coin out there. And Sam Bankman-Fried is not getting off scot-free. So let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.